Hello, guys. How's it going? How are we emotionally ready to get through this? I don't know, because I'm honestly
Absolutely not.
I'm not.
Put
as
that
well.
brave face like Ellie.
So
Yeah.
we just finished watching the third episode of HBO's The Last of Us. So we're gonna talk about whether, should you out there watch this show?
Are you still watching?
Are you watching? Are you gonna keep watching? Well, we'll chat about all this on this special episode of Geeks with Kids. So we're not gonna do, our general what's good, because we're gonna talk about The Last of Us. This is all.
You know what's good.
We know what's good. So The Last of Us TV show is on HBO. It was created by Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl, and as well as Neil Druckmann, who co-directed and co-created The Last of Us over at Naughty Dog. Before we get started, I know us on the pod here want to send condolences and love off to Annie Wershing's family. She passed away earlier today from cancer, and she originally played Tess on the first game, and she was 45, so that was too young. It's tragic. She's incredibly
I was not
talented.
For that news.
No, like no one had.
It hit me in the gut.
Yeah, when I saw it
Now this
online,
episode happened.
I was like, oh man, like I understand.
I literally had to Google if it was real.
Yeah, same.
I was like, no. I felt the same way when Chadwick passed away. I was like,
no. Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
How?
it's way too young.
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere.
Like Heath Ledger, Chadwick, and Annie Wershing, it was just like came out of nowhere. He was just like, okay. Oh man. But her performances will live on, and they've captured her spirit so well on the show. But we'll talk about that when we get into it. So before we get into the show, how familiar are you guys with the game? Hawk.
I'm so familiar.
That's why I'm starting you
ahead,
second,
Hawk,
Hawk.
I played the first one for the PS3.
3.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. When it first came out, one of the best stories. It was a game I just couldn't wait to finish. Sometimes you encounter a game, it's like I'll finish that some other time on that.
Yeah.
No, this one is you had to stick it through to the end.
Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, and part 2 just surpassed all the expectations I had going into it.
Yeah. Brett?
Well,
You're just nodding your
I
head.
eat,
Mhm.
sleep, and breathe The Last of Us.
I
So
agree.
I've played the first game too many times. Like
There's
arguably
never
not
too
very
many
many.
times.
There's so many
At
different
least
ways
I'm
to play
talking
it.
it's like in the 20s.
I agree. Same.
And then Last of Us Part 2 was so good, I played it once. I've not picked it up to play it again.
It's
That's how
hard.
emotionally I got wrecked.
It's emotionally like drained. That end. I don't want to spoil it for people who've
Yeah.
just
No, we
seen the
don't
TV
have
show.
to. I won't tell
But
you.
like
But
there are things that you do in the second game where you're like, man, I question everything now, because
these stories, the reason I love them is that they're about love. It's a story about love and what
Mhm.
love will bring you to do.
Mhm.
Sometimes love and grief will drive you to do certain things.
Yeah.
Sometimes love and grief will drive you to do other things.
yeah.
All I know is when the first game ended, and they announced like the second one, I was like, you know what? I think the first one's a perfect game. I don't think we need a second one, but since we're getting it, I'm gonna play it.
I gotta be honest.
feel the
I
same
felt
way.
the same way.
Yeah. And now that 2 happened, I also feel like, honestly, if I only ever had part 1 and part 2, I'm perfectly fine with that. And then the HBO show, they're like, we're gonna do that. So I was like, I guess I'll watch it. And the other thing is, people are like, will they do a part 3? Will they not? I'm like, either way, it's all. Each has done its own self-contained story so well that they complement each other. It has a full arc. Naughty Dog knows what the fuck they're doing. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but if you don't play any Naughty Dog games, they don't do anything wrong narratively. Like, I would even argue they don't do anything wrong. But can't put anything too high on a pedestal. But that's how I feel about The Last
It's
of Us.
true.
You know me. I have the merch everywhere. I've read all the the supplemental
American
stuff.
Dreams and all that stuff.
Of all I have the art books. I have
Yep.
clothes. This close to getting a tattoo. Like,
I
I almost did it when the game came out, but then everybody was doing it, so I was like, am I gonna be that lesbian?
Yeah.
I showed Megan the Ellie tattoo, and she's like, "Oh, that's really nice." She's like, "Did you want to get that?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah. I got a temporary one, I put it on, and my parents were like, that looks so good on you, and I was like, maybe one day. But then it's just too many people got it. So then
Yeah.
I was like, I wanna
I
get
saw
something different.
I saw someone
ideas, though.
who dressed up as Ellie at a con, and they put it on their leg, and I was like, oh, that's a nice place to put it.
Yeah. I like when people
Oh.
change certain part of it. Oh, here's the thing. There's so many motifs and like quotes and stuff from the game.
One person switched the
have
moth to a
ideas.
firefly, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, or some people will put her knife
Yep.
down like the
Yeah.
middle, or Joel's watch will be at the bottom,
Oh.
or the evil eye bracelet.
Yeah.
Character I won't talk about because people don't know about the second game if you're listening to this and you've
Yeah.
only watched HBO.
Yeah, yeah. The fandom is amazing. So for me, I have obviously played the game a billion times. I have the statues and the everything all around. I used to wear the
3D
firefly.
printing.
I used to wear the firefly necklace for a long time.
I had the keychain
Mm-hmm.
from the art book
Yeah.
on my thing and it broke.
I had the
have it, but,
keychain.
like, I worked too
The
much.
thing fell off, so I redid it and I put on a necklace and I used to wear it. And I was like, okay, because he was either that or Nathan Drake's coin.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love Naughty Dog so much.
I also broke the bracelet.
Oh, I never.
Came with the second game.
So I never wore it because I was like, I just want to keep
It
this
looks
like
so
this.
nice sitting on
Yeah.
its own. Yeah. I have it at Ellie's feet at the base from like the statue. of
Oh,
the
that's a
second
good
game.
idea. I should do that.
Yeah, so it's right there in front of her while she's playing the guitar. Oh,
She's currently sitting beside a gelatinous a cube. Right beside,
nice.
on all my
Gelatinous cube from
on my
D&D.
on all my like on my maker area. So I see her every time I go over there in like sand and stuff. I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, so oh man, it's hard to talk about this game because it's so beautiful and you don't want to ruin it. But HBO announced that they were going to do a TV show filmed up in Canada. Woo woo. And there was hesitations at first because video game adaptations have not been generally good, aka Mortal Kombat, the last movie. Metal sweaters. When you came into this, how were you guys with hesitations? Like, were you happy that the showrunner that was Craig Mazin and then Neil Druckmann came on to do the show as well?
Yes. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, well, it was mentioned at the top of the show, Craig Mazin did Chernobyl, an HBO series covering the explosion of the Chernobyl power plant in the Ukraine back in the 80s. One of the bleakest shows to watch, but also well written, well filmed. You can see his technique was just flawless filming those. All location shots. Like we noted in this series, everything is filmed on location. There doesn't seem to be any sort of stage. He captured the look and the effects, but most of all, he captured the writing and acting so well. He got great performances out of that cast. When he was announced for this show, I was fully on board, especially considering the game he had chosen to adapt, which I say is a perfect choice, for an adaptation. Set in the real world and that during a pandemic. It's something, that there's a blueprint laid out for how to do these shows, obviously with The Walking Dead. He comes in and adds like a totally different perspective to the show and life under, I won't say a pandemic right now. I'll say the apocalypse. Let's just call it the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He shows you what life under the apocalypse really feels like.
Britt?
That was amazing. I was gonna say.
Is there anything to add to that?
A very Chernobyl pursuit there.
Yeah.
So I was cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Same way I was about when they announced a part 2 and all these things. I've been around so long. I remember when they dropped their this character has an A name .. and people were like, oh my god, it's gonna be Ellie's mom. It's gonna be this. I was in all the conspiracies at the time. But knowing that one. It was the guy that worked on Chernobyl, and I hadn't watched it, but I'd heard really good things. So I was like, that's great. It was going to be on HBO Max. I was like, okay, so they'll have the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it was being made into a TV series finally instead of a movie, which they were always rumoring that maybe they would do Last of Us movie.
Well, that's what it was originally
thank God.
announced as, because it was Sam Raimi, and then they had cast, what's her name, from Game of Thrones. Like, they only cast one person.
Bella Ramsey?
No, it was
No, it was going to be somebody else.
Sansa, not Sansa, the younger one. What's her name?
Oh,
Arya.
Arya. Oh, man.
Maisie
glad that
Williams.
didn't happen.
Maisie Williams.
Yes, so
not that Maisie can't do it, but
no, yeah, but that was
yes.
like back in 2014. They're like, we're gonna make it into a
Yeah.
movie. I was like, that's a lot of story for one movie.
Yeah, whenever they want to adapt a movie that's, 16, 20 hours long into a movie, you're like, don't do it. But a TV series, I was like, that'll be great. And also the fact that Neil Druckmann's on it. The fact that they brought people from Naughty Dog to like, and there's so much. You've seen the behind the scenes each episode. The fact that they're like, well, you didn't have to model new things because Naughty Dog did all this work. We're just making it, practical now and prosthetics and all this cool stuff. So, I will say that leading up to the show, the closer we got to it, the better I felt about it. So I was always like, cool, this will probably be good. And then I was like, I hope it's good. Really want it to be. And then casting happened. And when, some people were like, oh, I don't know, Pedro Pascal, I don't know, Bella Ramsey. I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, literally, this is perfect casting.
Yep.
Yeah.
People don't have to look exactly like the character.
Yeah.
Unless it was modeled after them. Like.
Yeah. Even then, you don't need to, right? As long as they get they capture the essence.
From this.
Yeah.
And we brought back, Marlene.
Yeah.
In her actual role, other than the voices of the clickers and stuff like that.
I gotta be honest, I was also a little bit apprehensive, but mostly because I'd seen the Uncharted film just a little bit before they announced this, and I was like, you know what? I didn't love the Uncharted film. Like,
I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
It's fun, but it didn't feel like it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure Naughty Dog had a little bit to do with this. Because Nolan North shows up in it, but
I think they had Neil Druckmann consult on it, but that's different
even
than
then,
actually letting him direct it.
It shouldn't have been him. It should have been Amy Hennig anyway, right? Just bring the original person back to. But it I guess it was fun, yeah.
It's almost like a completely different studio system you're dealing with when it's a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is.
A TV show. It's
they had to pick someone popular. They had to make sure it was action packed and not as much. It should have been more Indiana Jonesy than it was.
Summer blockbuster.
Yeah, exactly. They had to have these big set pieces from the game so that they could.
The game has so many big set.
And I was like, you don't need to show all Anyway, let's not talk about Uncharted. I already talked about how much I didn't like that movie. It was all right, I guess. I can. Anyway,
it was a stinker.
Yeah, once they started casting, once they started showing behind the scenes, and once they started showing we're doing practical effects, we're doing all this stuff in camera so that you get the most authentic feel. We're not going to do it exactly the same. We're going to change enough that fans of the game are going to still be surprised. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm down with that. I don't want 100% adaptation. I know a lot of people are like, you know what? If I want to see Lord of the Rings, I'll read the books. I was like, you know what? I'm fine with the movies. It's fine. It has the same feel, and that's what I'm getting from this, especially when we watched the first episode, because we watched the episode together, and immediately we're sitting there thinking in our brains, they're going to go back, they're going to go to Texas a couple of years ago, and then they're going to show the outbreak happening 20 years prior, whatever, the 1990s, it was 90s, right, in the game?
No, it was 2013.
Oh.
In the game, because it's the year that
2013
the game came out.
Yeah, I do remember
that. Was when the outbreak happens, and then it's further in the future.
And then the reverse.
So they tried to ground it in reality now and made it 2003, so then it's our reality when where the people are at now.
But for people who haven't seen the show, when you start off with a cold open that's set in the 60s, that was totally it totally put us I was watching all of us. It put us in a position where oh shit. Things are going to be different, but things are going to be amazingly new. What did you guys think about how they changed that first? They started with the cold open. What did you think about it?
Love the cold open. And this is a welcome.
You can talk about the second episode too, right? The cold open there, because those are the only two that have had cold open so far.
Technically three this one, but we'll but anyway, it's also, you also have to remember, someone like Craig Mazin and that, with the kind of work he's been doing recently, doesn't want to just do a straight, shot for shot, line for line adaptation of a video game, and that kind of makes him no better than an animator. He's a writer. He wants to put,
You love animators.
Not there's anything wrong with that.
No. I don't want to.
It's the fucking tracers.
But if it's just a 100% copy and paste of it, it's not gonna have his input. Let's put it like that. But these cold opens were so well done. Like I said, the first one takes place in '68. The science is there.
And it's all just hypothetical at that point.
It's hypotheticals at that point, right? It was just so well done. And John Hannah played an amazing interview as the as a, I don't know what you call it.
Epidemiologist?
The epidemiologist.
And then the
thank you.
mycologist or whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And explained like, gave us like the whole idea of the strain that was to come and the conditions that would have to be met. And
And then
you
the
see,
second the second cold open takes that to 2003,
Like 2003,
Yeah.
yeah.
and
when
it
it's happening.
shows how those conditions were met because of global warming and whatnot, and how
Yep.
this this
Global
fungus,
warming, the flower.
yeah, contaminated flour, which we ingested, and then started this whole chain reaction like that.
When
That's
she was
stuff
like,
we didn't even
that
get.
was the perfect like breeding environment for
Yeah.
it. Like, oh, that woman did such an incredible job.
Yeah. The cold opens have been phenomenal. Britt, anything to add to the cold opens?
I was just gonna say the cold opens have been some of my favorite added material
Mhm.
so far, other than tonight's episode for sure.
Well,
But,
basically, we've only known about not even North America, just the states in the games. So getting to know a little bit
like
more.
they've like some of the supplemental material you can pick up or like
Yeah, but
there's,
general
like references
gamers.
to things, but most of the time it is
Yeah.
very focused on just like North America. But I loved just the fact that they knew to open the show with talking about the cordyceps fungi in like a believable place where like they would be having a talk, but to not only explain it to like audience that didn't know about it, like maybe you didn't see Planet Earth back in the day when they first introduced this and everybody was like, what the fuck, that's so fucked up. And then you didn't play The Last of Us where the minute that you started playing this game they're like the cordyceps and you're like, holy shit, that stuff that fucks with ants. Explain it perfectly for the audience. It did enough like to draw people that already love this game in more to be like, this is the perfect way to explain. This is setting it up to be more. And the games are pretty grounded, right?
Yep.
Other than like this, they have to do some crazy game shit where like, oh, you make that leap even though like physically maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah.
But it's so grounded in reality that when you see it happen live in the episode, everything like makes perfect sense. You're like, yep. She senses these things happening throughout the day. The fact that subconsciously she locks the door to the house and Joel's like, you never locked the door. Like, look, you finally locked the door. It's because was sensing all these things going wrong, but nobody was telling her what was going wrong because adults like to think they're protecting kids that way.
Mhm.
It was the same way that 9/11 was. For me, I was in second grade when that happened. I was in school. Everybody started acting weird. The teachers called everybody like to sit in a certain area. Parents started coming in and picking up their kids.
Shit.
Nobody knew what was happening until we were told by adults or we got to watch it on TV, sort of thing.
I was
that's
eating
why they
cereal
chose.
when that happened.
Yeah.
That is why they chose that post 9/11 like
Frame
window
time.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why she was like, is it terrorists? Like that's because that's what a kid in 2003 would have
Yeah.
thought.
100%.
It's exactly what I would have done if I left school.
Oh man.
So many great things. The kids' wrist twitching
Yeah.
in class because they were starting to lose control. Ugh.
And all the
moments.
chaos happening in the background while they're still living their lives, like it's just gradually ramping up. There's an amazing thing that these creators have done, and that is, I know Hawk, we'd mentioned how there was some apprehension about people doing one for one shots or using the same dialogue, and they're like, are they just going to be copying the game? Are they just going to be saying that, like, no one wants, as an actor, you don't want a line reading by a director or by a previous source, right? You don't want to copy that. You want to make it your own. But they have done the same lines or, sort of mirrored or swapped it. And it's sort of like this homage to the game. What did you guys think about all these set pieces that very much were in the game, but, they took their own take for the show?
Like you said, yeah, the actors don't want like a line for line. The writers are the same way in that, they've really inserted themselves, and they have the perfect form. This is HBO. This is like the network that gave us the framework, for the golden age of television, from The Sopranos on, so they have a lot of freedom to work with, and they really take advantage of it. And that, like I said, with the cold opens, yes, perfect. But also, I just want to get into talk about tonight now.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'll get there.
But somebody want to take over.
yeah.
I will. So one of my favorite things about the show is, like you said, how they will include these really important parts of dialogue that you really like from the game. And sometimes they will say it word for word. They'll hit the same beats the same way. But they do that thing where they might not say it in the exact same spot, or they'll have the characters swap positions because they're reminding you that they're like, this is a retelling of the story. This is a mirrored version of the story. We're going to take it our own way. But it's there for the people that are the fans of the game that know these moments by heart, like because you've played it so many times, or it triggered an emotion in you, and like you'll never forget it. It's such like a profound experience. So remember when we were watching the first episode, we know when they get in the truck, like they did so much shot for shot, looking over her shoulder. Like the farm was on the opposite side of the screen. Like they did everything like almost exactly, but slightly off or parallel. So that way you got a little nod. And the fact that they were driving through the city and they didn't get hit by the truck, like they were backing up, and I was like, "There's the truck!" And then they didn't fucking get hit by the truck. And you
and
turn
then
around
a plane
and see
comes.
airplane,
God,
you were like, "That's right. This is HBO. This is TV. It's gonna be a fucking airplane." Like it's just every change they've made has been good.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I was like a little about was just like the last episode when Tess died, the way that the infected was kind of like went for the mouth. I get why it happened. I understand they were trying to raise the stakes and make you feel like, and also show that like, her muscles and stuff were starting to not cooperate with her. It was starting to take over. It wanted her to get infected.
Mm-hmm.
But as a woman, I was like, that was a little ick.
Yeah, it was ick for I think everyone.
Maybe if a man didn't write this, it wouldn't have happened. But that aside, everything they've done in the show has only heightened the story.
Mm-hmm.
And when you adapt something from one form of media to another, you're going to lose things and you're going to gain things. And that's why I usually give adaptations a chance, because there's sometimes I will watch a TV adaptation or a movie adaptation of something I love, and yeah, it won't be exactly how you pictured it in the book, because one, you got to use your own imagination based on the description. You might have pictured a character differently or like the setting differently. And when you play these games, you're actually being the character. You're going through these scenarios. I know, I've played this game so many times. When they went into the hotel in the last episode, I knew when she walked in and went ding, 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 can you bring my suitcase up, all that shit, I was like, there's a safe behind there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a safe behind there. I said it out loud while I was watching it. I was like, oh, cool, that's where the safe is.
Yep.
And I'm like, they're not going to go to the safe because, one, it doesn't exist. This is a TV
they don't
show.
need to look for that ammo.
Like, they don't need the safe. So, like, this episode was the same thing. I was excited to see Billstown, the layout. I saw the church, and I was like, oh, cool, the church is still there.
The traps were still there.
Yep.
Yeah, everything, the traps, everything about the character and who he is as a person was there, and you didn't even need Ellie to fucking meet him. How insane is that? I missed the exchange that they do have in the game, but I got to learn a lot more about who Bill is and why he is the fuck the way he is.
Yeah.
Without needing them to even interact. How brilliant is that one of your main characters does not even need to interact with the secondary character for you to see that?
So let me go off of that, because us as gamers who love this game, we're getting a lot out of this TV show, especially this last episode, and we're actually learning a lot more, at least feeling a lot more about these characters than we've already, we've spent years with these people already. How do you think this feels for people who haven't played the game? Are they getting as much out of this as we are? Fred?
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people I know that haven't played the game, and a lot of people that I know that have. So I'm on game dev Twitter. I'm, doing voice acting now. I'm friends with a side that has either been in the game or loves the game to death and lives and dies by it. Example, you guys. And then one of my coworkers has not played the game, never played the game. He started watching it and was like, this is the greatest, like, quote, zombie show I've ever seen. Like, has talked about it every episode with me. Like, and I've run it through where I'm just like, yeah, and guess what? Like, if you play the game, like, it matches, Sarah's eye level until the transition in the car where Joel takes over and he's carrying her. I was like, notice how the camera level then matched his level and it switched? I was like, the same fucking thing happens in the game. And he's like, I need to play it. I can't wait to hear how this episode affects him.
Yeah.
Because I will be like, people want to go and play the game now. It's hiked up in sales. People are going to play it. I can't wait for people to be like, holy shit, this whole part is not even in the game.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, yeah, we had one note. We had one crumpled up note in a dead body hanging up, and just seeing his reaction to looking at the man he loves having hung himself. That's how we knew he's queer. Like Ellie with the, I found this, porn magazine. Oh, where are these dudes with dicks at? Or whatever. Throws it out the truck, which, may or may not happen, but it was all these little moments that we got to be like, okay, so this is why Bill is this way as a person. But like, to see it so fleshed out, they have moments to breathe with the show. The game, you have to you have moments where you can find something, you open up, you find a, letter somebody wrote to somebody or a picture, and you have these glimpses into these different people's lives or what happened with the outbreak. And, Ellie's learning about the world before he was a part of it. Joel is fortunately like, yep, been there. But the show does it in such an interesting way where it's focusing on each of the characters and making them just as important as Joel and Ellie.
Yes.
So the story is very much about them, the way they find love and hope through all this, but also it's showing you glimpses of that redemption and hope and love in other people. Anyway,
that was really well
That
said.
was very.
So I'm gonna go off of that because this episode really, what phrase is going through my head is expanding the legacy of the game. Because, like you said, we met Bill in the game for a couple hours. There was a whole level around him, and basically this was us trying to get to Pittsburgh. We need to get a vehicle. We need to get out. There's a person here. He had supplies. It's a section of the game to go around scrounge.
There's a motor in the high school.
Exactly.
And then you fight a bloater.
Exactly. And I'm glad that we don't get a bloater or any bigger enemies until later.
Look, that Tess says, I sure hope that doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah,
like the bloater.
exactly. So this show is really expanding the legacy. There's no spores. It's all tendrils and hold on one sec.
Hive mind.
And a hive mind. We get to meet these characters. The stories change, but we get to feel more. I love Bill way more than I did in the game, and Bill was a good character already as it is. I love Frank, and I did not like Frank in the video game. I did not feel anything for him, and I felt he was mean for what he did. But in this, we had more of an emotional arc in this last episode, the third episode, than all of Rise of Skywalker. Let's be honest, or any of the sequel trilogy.
Each of these
Star Wars.
episodes has been like a movie that way, where I'm just like, Oscar, I'm blown away.
I agreed. So what do you think about this expanding of this legacy? Like Bill and Frank, this third episode, I thought I could have swore we would have just been like, we're gonna get a little bit of flashback, see Frank, get in with Bill, and then eventually he'll kill himself like he does in the game. But this was a giant love story. Like Britt was saying, this whole story is about love and loss, and what wouldn't you do for your family, right, Hawk? That's a Star Trek quote that I keep quoting everywhere I go, which I don't, because Benedict Khan. What do you think of this expansion of this legacy? And it makes me look forward to the brothers that show up later, finding out more about Tommy, finding out more about maybe the doctors and all of the Fireflies. Apparently we're going to learn more about the Fireflies this season. There's only 12 episodes.
9 episodes.
9 episodes.
Yeah, it's only 9.
Yeah, this is why we're getting such expansion on that. Yeah, Bill was an important character in the game. To follow where the game took that story wasn't necessary for this show. They wanted to introduce the character of Bill and what he went through during this whole apocalypse, and it was great. Because we all. In these kinds of shows, we always just focus on the survivors who are moving forward. We see quarantine zones, we see people who are escaping or fighting and that. This was a guy who, even before the apocalypse, just wanted to be left alone by society. He had, he had constructed a bunker. We made the comment and said, so people like him back then were considered crazy. Well, Bill wasn't crazy. Bill was fastidious. He was meticulous and that, but he also didn't think there was anything out there in the world before him, before this apocalypse.
Especially worth saving, right? Like
worth saving.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted to hide himself away in that, and it's like the apocalypse came, and he seemed to be thriving. I even commented on that. He was having a really good time during this, And then what happens? Love literally falls into a hole outside his front yard. Something he didn't know he didn't know he really even wanted or needed. Like Frank was amazing in this.
Oh my God.
I'm having a little trouble remembering. You mentioned about Frank in the video game. I remember Bill in that. I remember the story with Frank. I just didn't remember.
Frank was just through the notes. That's all we learned.
Yeah, I was gonna say Frank was literally a dead body, and you only saw the feet.
Yep.
And a little bit of a Hawaiian shirt hanging. It's when Joel and Ellie and Bill first enter this one house after sneaking around the infected, and they walk in and they look, and two of them are in the room, and Ellie doesn't even, I think, see it at first, and they look up, and he's just like,
God damn it, Frank.
And God damn it, Frank. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. And
It's
he
been
kills
so
himself
long.
because it's this whole thing where he can't deal with Bill anymore. And his like
Yeah.
isolationism and everything like that. So
And
I am so
It's
glad they
so-
went the change they did, because
Yeah.
you know part of people's hesitation to get into the show is that they might be on burnout from like a zombie series and that from like decades of like Walking Dead on with
and our real life.
and real life exactly. It's like who wants to watch another pandemic show and that. So I'm hoping people kind of like put that prejudice aside and watch this
Yeah.
because this was an amazing turnabout.
It tore my heart in two multiple times. Like I don't recall seeing a love story this well done in one episode. Like, and it was a full arc of their love, their meeting, them, growing in that love, and then the end of it. And I was like,
It was the equivalent of the fucking Up intro. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
It
like,
is.
all of that in
Oh
such
my
a
God,
short,
it
and
is.
you got invested. You were like, the music hit, the emotional beats hit, everything, and you were just like, it's like a gut punch to the throat. That is what I always call The Last of Us, because, like you've said, it's so bleak, and some people are like, how can you do this? Like my family, at least have watched me play the game enough times that they get it. Like my dad was like, oh, this is like a great story between like his father and then his daughter figure, like stuff like that. People, when they watch long enough, they'll understand. But I've played it on repeat so many times that they're like, this is depressing, like, don't you need help? And I'm just like, it's not depressing, no, it's about hope. You play the ending and you hear those last lines spoken, there's no way to come back from what happens at the end. So like all you can do is realize that the hope is what led them there.
yeah.
Like Joel says, you always have to find something worth fighting for. And Bill finally found something worth fighting for. He didn't have that in the game, really. He just kept surviving for the sake of surviving. But to have in the show that he had that love, because like you understand that there must have been love or something there, and then there's that falling out, but you didn't get to witness it. You're just seeing the aftermath.
He
But
really
you-
did
you
just
all-
sorry, he really
One
did just
point.
feel like a crazy bunker person in the game. That's all he felt like. And you were there for ammo and equipment. That's the only reason he was there. Sorry, Hawk.
What's so unique is that in shows about like the apocalypse and that you never see people get to live out like a life together.
Yeah.
You get it's all new relationships found in the apocalypse are often brutal and short.
Yep.
This was such
Glenn
a
and Maggie.
yeah, exactly. What they had was so real in that, and it was just so, but it was brief, but it was so real, and and this felt exactly the same. But like to actually get to that stage that they were at, where they, one had to care for the other's elderly needs and that.
Yeah. Well, even just before that, like the strawberry sequence where he's like, I traded one of your guns. He's like, what? And Bill's like, what? And he's like, it's a small gun. And he's like, okay, whatever. Because you did this nice thing for me. He would not, like, they had met like 15, 20 minutes earlier. Like for them to grow to that point and us to believe that.
Yeah. And
is
we watched
incredible.
like 20 years of their love.
Yeah.
I also love that it the outbreak takes place in 2003 in the show, and the fact that when they reach that ending point and he's just like, and we're gonna get married and like all this or whatever, they got to live a full life. But as gay men, they would have had to deal with so much shit had the outbreak not happened. They wouldn't have maybe ever met. They wouldn't have had this life together.
They wouldn't have met.
And the fact that the show, they wouldn't have, period. But they show that like there's beauty and love that still exists in this world, and that's something the game does in little like soft moments of like childhood innocence you have, and like just these when they're entering Billstown before they get there, she stands there in the game and there's fireflies, and she puts her arms out and she's like, whoa, firefly, like. It's little beautiful moments in that golden hour. They captured that when I was pointing out that scene, the strawberry scene. It was golden hour and things were floating in the air. They captured that moment, but not with Ellie this time. They had this cute little love. Oh my God, it was so well written, so well acted. I was like, who was gay that was working on this? Answer is the editor, Timothy Good.
Yep. Yeah.
Pretty sure is gay. There's a little rainbow flag.
The
Give
metaphors
Timothy a
are
follow
just incredible in
on
this
Twitter.
series. Like think about the fact that life had to end for Bill's life to really begin.
Yeah,
And like
it's true for a lot of people.
the endings of these characters that we've met so far, and there will be more. That's not a spoiler. That's just how this game is.
That's a promise.
Yeah.
the Tess's
Prepare to cry.
and Bill's, like they felt more painful than the game. And I can't imagine.
people.
Yeah, I can't imagine people, like new people that haven't experienced that, how they would take this. Like I sort of envy them because it's them experiencing this. I don't want to say pain, but
For the first time?
it's them
No, I
going
get
through
it.
this first time. Even when people play it, they're like, "I'm gonna play The Last of Us now." I'm like, "Yes, do it."
Like, tell me about every step of the way. I want to know how you were hurt, when, and why. Like,
These are the
please.
times where I'm like, please stream this so I can watch your reactions while you play this game, because this is a game where
The amount of people
yeah.
with the bunny scene, the amount of
Yeah.
people that the bunny has gotten.
Yep. Yeah.
Probably
Agreed.
not spoilers,
Agreed.
probably not.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So like this, it's. I think it's pretty apparent that this TV show's lovingly made for audiences, not just the gamers out there, but also regular people, which is an amazing feat on its own.
Keep both sides happy.
Yeah. So we have 6 more episodes left. What do you hope to see? And I'm gonna pretty much assume that we're saying yes, you should watch this because
Oh yes.
we're all sort of
Every
gushing
episode
about
has
it.
been a 10 out of 10.
Yep.
And then this episode, somehow a 10 feels like a slight. Like, I
I
feel
agree.
like saying, like, first episode, Chef's Kiss, amazing. They gave Tess, literally went out with a bang last episode,
Yep.
and I was like, holy shit, 10. Like, they have not done anything that I even consider like an 8 or a 9. And then for this episode to be some of the most beautiful television I've watched in my life. And I've recently been watching fucking K-dramas and shit, okay? I've been watching nonstop love stories. And then I saw this shit, and in 1 hour, made my sweatshirt wet. I'm sorry, but you have to win an Emmy just for this episode. Everyone
Nick
involved
Offerman.
gets an Emmy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nick
Yeah.
Offerman, man.
I don't understand.
Come on.
Holy shit. I could believe 100% if this, like I said when we were watching, if this was the first time I saw him in a role ever, I would have been like, that is a gay man.
The love
As
felt
far as
real.
I know, he's not.
No,
That's just fucking acting.
yeah.
He's amazing. He's so underrated because he came from obviously we were talking about comedy before. He came obviously from the comedy background, Parks and Recs for years and that, but he has expanded his repertoire like significantly. Last great thing I saw him in was Debs for FX, and that he played a tech billionaire who was chasing a fantasy, and that
He's a
and
woodworker in real life.
Yeah. He's,
You know, he was working his wood in this show.
he was so perfect for Bill in that because he has all those qualities, that people associate with the manliness and the beard and that, and the carpentry skills and that. Bill has all those in spades and that.
Yeah.
As we said, he was a prepper, a survivalist, ready for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And yet, all the scenes played with Frank and that, it's like you could see that whole bare facade crack and that at the tenderest moments. He conveys so much emotion with his eyes.
Yes.
Alone.
I love that about him.
And there are like little quivers in his lips that happen occasionally, and I'm just like,
And even his forehead veins
His little
were going
wrinkles.
on the couch, and I was like, holy shit. I don't know how many times they had to film this, but like, you are probably out of tears.
Yeah, he probably had like a giant water bottle, like, I need to hydrate more.
Such a
And those
beautiful episode.
those scenes
Yeah.
with Joel in that, he could alternate, because like we'd see him tender in that. Those scenes with Joel in that where he didn't quite know or trust Joel in that, he could be dead scary.
Well, I think that's it was a good way to have them introduce each other and then show that they're really going to be parallels of each other throughout this season, because we got this shortened version of this love story between a man and his partner. But then we get the father-daughter love that we got in the first episode, but only for a short period of time. And that's the love that grows in this season. And that's something I'm really looking forward to.
Starting to grow.
Like starting now, and you can see it. Like he's
He
starting
starts
to
throw
solve.
her food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The letter that Bella Ramsey read at that Bill left. Just beautiful
stopped before
writing,
reading
beautiful
Tess's
acting.
name.
Exactly. Like sorry, Hawk.
You mentioned about something we want to see in that. Something I didn't get to see though. When that scene in the convenience store they went into, I was like, totally expecting something else. It was that bit in the first game in that where they were kind of searching for goods and that bunch of raiders showed up in that.
That's
no,
later.
That is Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Which
That's
is going to happen like next episode.
Yeah.
That's what I
They have
want
to crash
see.
the truck first.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Which
the
we
one
saw in the trailer, so.
Really,
Sorry.
I really want an action
No.
piece with Joel in
I
that.
knew when you said that, you were like, oh, this convenience store. I was like, don't say it.
I know. I was sitting there, I was like, I don't know if he's thinking this one or later one.
Yeah.
Because that one just looked like the one that they do actually just raid for stuff.
And just like look through.
Yeah, and there's always a clicker or something in like a back room, and I'm glad that they found that.
Still had the arcade game, but not in Bill's bar. You
Yes.
know, like, and the fact that it was actually a real game, like Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah, you know
And the fact
that's
that
what
she
they
was, like,
wanted to do in the game too, but they were like,
yeah,
we don't have
for
the
sure.
we
And
don't have
she's
the
like,
rights. Yeah.
Melina. And if people play, well, The Last of Us, she mentions that she played this with a friend before, or whatever, and then you play the DLC and you actually see that moment happen. And it's such a great moment, and the fact that she, you know, it's not like technology is working. You're able to actually play the game.
Yeah.
She has to close her eyes and imagine it. And it was just like seeing that magic moment again. I was just like, this is.
So the DLC that Brittany's talking about is Left Behind. It was actually added after like a number of months after The Last of Us came out, and now that they've re-released the game, it's part of the actual whole game. So you can actually just play it as part of it. You don't have to think about buying it. For those who haven't played it, let's talk about what we're looking forward to for the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll end up talking about the whole season when this is done in March, but we have 6 episodes left. That's a month and a half still of episodes. That's a lot of tears every Sunday. What are you looking forward to without, spoiling the rest of the show?
I will just say winter.
I agree.
Winter is my favorite part of the game. And I think that since they're only doing this in one season, and considering how Left Behind is done, supplementally to the game and when it takes place, quote unquote, flashback-wise,
I think it's a whole episode.
If they pair winter happening and Left Behind, the flashbacks to it happen during winter, like in the game, it's gonna be fucking amazing.
Yep.
I just can't wait. Like, I know for the length of the show, they'll probably do something like this where they show more, but then don't make the mechanics of like what happened, fighting through people, blah blah blah. Vaguely, as much as I can say, just what happens in winter and how their relationship changes after that.
Yeah.
I'm all over it. I want to and I need to see it.
Hawk.
Considering how well they've done all the practical effects for, the infected and the lurkers and that, I'm really looking forward to see how they pull off the scene with the bloater.
Yep. And that looks like a gym. Doesn't it?
But
they don't need to do the gym.
I don't know, because the thing is, the bloater happened in Billstown.
Yep.
So, will they skip it?
I hope they save that till much later, to be honest. I don't want to see any big zombies till later.
I want them to do a generator scene.
Yeah.
You know, in the games when they're like, and like the hordes come and you're like, God damn it, the fucking hotel basement or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Fun fact, I know how to speed run that level.
This is what I'm really enjoying is that they have bits and pieces they can, they're not butchering it. They're basically surgically removing these key identifying scenes and that for people and that and inserting them into their own story and that. I approve. It's been great so far.
What I'm hoping for is now we have this whole thing with Bill, right? And we know a lot more about him. I want to know more about David.
I think we're gonna learn more about David.
Yeah, and if not that, I'm looking forward to seeing Sam and Henry.
I'm also low-key hoping that Troy Baker is David.
So like, I think they
he's in that group, quote unquote. But
I think they announced the actor for David, though.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Damn, that's the one announcement I missed then.
Yeah.
I'm
but
just
maybe
hoping
not.
it's a fake, and then
that'd be even more. That would be better.
That would be to have that juxtaposition. Would be fucking mind blowing.
What if it was Nolan North?
I know. I would love it for it to be Nolan.
Oh my God. Right?
As far as I know.
I know. One last thing. So we're guaranteed this season. We get it till March. But they just announced that season 2 is coming. Finally greenlit after 3 amazing episodes. So they announced season 2 is coming out. They released the first episode of this season on YouTube for everyone to watch it for free. So if you haven't seen it and you don't have HBO, go to YouTube. It's on there. Do you want season 2 to be the second game?
I think that based on what they already prepped, it has to be the second game. Unless for some reason, we get to like a cliffhanger,
Mhm.
or somehow this
I don't
ends
think
with
so.
like beginning of winter, and then we have to wait for.
They said
but I think
the whole first game is
Yeah,
this season.
they said that would be the first game. So I am prepared for 2 to be the second game. Just assuming they haven't started it or filmed it yet because they had to wait to be greenlit.
Yeah.
It at least lets Bella get a little older.
Mhm.
If she will be playing older Ellie or not.
Yeah.
Listen. I want
They can't recast
Alexander
her. God no.
to be in part 2.
Mhm.
Like I want so basically Lev and was it Yar?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always feel like that's like Star Trek name, so I think it's like wrong. But anyway, I want both of them to be in it. Obviously, I don't think Laura Bailey can be the character that she is.
Nope.
No. But I hope she gets to show up as like anybody who was in the game that can't reprise their role because they either look too different or are the wrong age, etc. should show up as a cameo. That would be great for me.
Agreed.
I am here for it.
Yes.
Though. I'm ready.
Season 2 should most definitely be the game. And here's why in that. They can't recast Bella Ramsey in that because right now, currently in this role, she is playing a lot younger than she is. Currently, she's 20 years old.
What?
Yeah.
No, I knew that.
So
I thought she was 16.
She's already the perfect age to play Ellie in the second video game,
That's fair.
Right? And plus you got to remember, like, she's going to look a little bit older than that because they've got a year left for filming in that, before we're probably not going to see this until like 24,
well,
right?
that's what I meant. She's allowed to get a little bit older.
Yeah.
Not even till
hairstyle.
25, to be honest.
Yeah. No, she is playing doing her age in this, and she's doing like,
doing a good job.
Fooled us.
I mean, Ashley Johnson fooled a lot of people.
That's fair. That's fair.
A lot of people were like, wait, she's not a 14-year-old girl when she came up to get her BAFTA? And I was like, no, that's like a 30-year-old woman.
Yep. An amazing one who was on Growing Pains.
This is incredible.
She always voices young characters, though.
Do people not realize how voice actors work? Like,
no, they don't.
I've seen it happen. People don't even know how actors work. They can't differentiate the fact that the actor is not the character. They'll get so mad at the character for their choices and like harass the actor.
Do you know how many minds, like if you go to YouTube and watch people reacting to Tara Strong, like when people are like, but it's a girl
like,
voicing a boy.
Bubbles is not a child.
What? Or Bubbles.
She voiced Ben 10 in the original series.
Or Tommy.
She voiced Timmy Turner. Yeah, Tommy Pickles.
Does anybody remember a little show called King of the Hill?
Yep.
Did they think Bobby's voice stayed that way like after like 12 seasons?
Right,
It
right.
was voiced by
I've
Pamela
watched enough anime
Adlon.
to know that young boy voices are women.
Yep,
Yeah.
always.
Period.
All of them.
Always.
They
It's
have
just
to.
They
easier.
have to be.
Yeah.
It's too hard for men to go back to that. They're
Yeah.
like, I hit my voice change with puberty. Women are like, can be annoying as fuck as an 8-year-old.
I remember young boys. Okay, so without a doubt,
so much and yet so little.
But
Yeah,
we
I
also
don't want to spoil it for people.
this is a lot of us are we just want people to watch the show. That's all I want people to do is just go out. Even if you didn't even have the inkling to watch this before, hopefully we got you to at least be a little bit more interested. I ended up getting a trial subscription to HBO just so I could watch this show. That's how excited I was. I was like, I need to watch this show. This has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not disappointed. And I'm so close to getting my wife to watch it. I'm so close. She knows how much I
My
love
mom watched it on her own. Did I tell you?
No.
So the thing is, my parents know. Like, it's to the point where if I'm playing any other game with a woman with a bow, like I'm playing Horizon, my dad's like, is this the one with Ellie? Is that Ellie? And I'm like, no, I'll be playing Tomb Raider. And he's like, is that Ellie? And I'm like, it's Lara Croft. You know this. But anyway, my mom on her own started watching it on HBO because she recognized the name.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, this is that game that Brittany likes. And started watching it. She watched it. She was like, amazing. I love it.
It was.
See why you love it.
I
I was
think
like-
she was a little bit hesitant. She didn't talk to me about the show after I watched the first episode with you guys, but she knew how much I loved it and how much I was disappointed by Uncharted. And she's
Yeah,
like,
so she
"Is
was
it
like,
worth
"I
the
can't watch
watch?" She's like, "Yeah," because she watched it with me, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "Huh." They played the theme at the end of the movie. Yeah. Oh,
they-
you know what we haven't talked
Really?
about? The music of this show.
Music. Okay. Gustavo Santaolalla is incredible. First of all, the soundtrack to the 2 games, perfect,
Yep.
amazing. The fact that in the show they're not just using the tracks from the first game, but like last episode, Tess and Joel, that scene before she dies, he used music from the second game for another pairing that I can't mention. Big brain. And the fact that he's even, like, there's more music they've added in that's not in either. It's like, the man can't lose. The man's a genius.
I think the first thing I said to you guys after the first episode was, I can't wait to get another Last of Us soundtrack because I'm so happy about it. It's. I
didn't think we were gonna get another one.
Yeah, exactly, because they're just using the same thing. But I used to, when I used to commute to Toronto, I used to listen to the soundtracks every day on the train because it was just an amazing thing. That or Lord of the Rings, right? Those are the two commuting soundtracks that you can do, and it's just amazing.
They're perfect because they're in order and you feel the whole journey. It's to the point where The Last of Us, the main theme, you can listen to just that theme and you can hear Joel and Ellie's entire journey. I weep just hearing that one track, but
there was another composer for the film, to the TV show too, who's doing supplemental music, or he's doing it in conjunction, and I don't have his name right now.
Let me look it up. I would like to thank them.
David Fleming.
David Fleming.
So mad props, because it does not feel like you're doing, like, you know, sometimes you get two composers, you're like, oh, the music feels a little bit off.
Like two different. No, it's a good pairing because I didn't even realize there was another composer.
Yeah. So.
That's how good that is.
It's just amazing.
Oh, can I say, like, their
soundtrack
selection has been incredible.
Oh, this is soundtrack as in real music that they reused in the show.
I know, but
I meant for the audience out there.
Can we at least comment on the tracks that they're choosing? In that?
Yeah,
We've got
what songs have we heard?
Depeche Mode so far. We've heard Erasure, Linda Ronstadt. I'm trying to think. I don't
Fleetwood
remember.
Mac was in.
Fleetwood Mac was in this one.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Stranger Things came out and Running Up the Hill just went because everyone was just like, that's what happened with Depeche Mode after the first episode. And I was so happy to see that on iTunes. I was just like, okay, this is an album I own on vinyl and on everything. Yep.
Music in the second game. Same thing happened when the game came out. And the thing is, Take On Me being used in this trailer the way it was, I hope the song appears.
It will.
In this one, but if not, season 2 it needs to.
It will.
I'll die.
Oh my god. You know Bella's learning guitar right now, and we're all just dying right now because
listen. I know that things have to happen in the second game for the plot to happen, but I also like
we
I don't know. I can't get hurt again.
We are going to get hurt again, and I know that
I'm getting hurt just from these episodes.
We're going to get extra hurt this season because we know we're going to see Ashley show up, we're going to see Troy show up, and when they come on and either die on screen, you're just going to be like, oh my god.
I know. Oh my god, and they will.
They will. Any final thoughts on The Last of Us? I'm looking forward to talking about the whole season with you guys when it's done, because I will need to hydrate every Sunday until then.
All I can say is, as someone who's played the game a billion times, loves, all the things about it, to see, like, one, the story being and the characters all being treated well, and they don't even have to be exactly the same for the tone and everything to fit the narrative and the story and the beauty of it perfectly. But, like, little quote Easter egg moments or whatever, where, like, you had that audio cue when they got caught by the Fedra guy in the first episode. He was like the sound that's like, if you've been spotted, like the clickers, the fact that, like, the tone and everything about the museum felt so much like that part where you're crawling around and trying to avoid the clickers
without having them crawl all over the place.
Without having you, like, you're capturing the feelings you get playing the game without having you literally holding the controller doing it. So, like, you don't have to sit through a few hours of, like, what's in this drawer? Half of a scissor. Like, I still want them to have a moment
when he starts patching up Tess and he takes out the tape, and I was dying there. Oh my god.
Exactly. Like, I would love for more like winks and nods here or there, but I also don't want it to, like, it doesn't have to do that.
Yeah.
People watching it won't care if, like, a certain protein bar appears. I give a shit if a certain protein bar appears, but it doesn't have to. I would love for the wolf, like, the movie that doesn't exist that shows up, or Starlight. Like
they've shown a little bit of those things, right?
Yeah, but, like, if they come across a poster like that where it's like, this was the movie that was out, before the
or she gets a graphic novel. Oh man,
it was Sonic. Yeah, exactly. So if it was Savage Starlight, I would love for that to happen where she's like, yeah, I like this comic Savage Starlight. Like, can you? Because in the game you find more for her, and like the more you interact with Ellie, the more secret moments you get with their dialogue and stuff.
That relationship
Anyway,
grows
I'm
in the game
getting distracted.
with all these supplemental things, and I feel like
Yeah.
they've been slowly doing that in the show too. So I can see
I just
them
like the
doing
Easter
that.
eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more they give me, the happier I'll be. But I also apparently don't need them.
No.
I don't need
No.
them.
Hawk?
It's weird.
Again, like I gotta compare it to Chernobyl and that. This was this was a series about people who are trying to survive in the apocalypse that is shot with a very stark realism and moments of very dark beauty.
Mhm.
And as I said, this game is the perfect adaptation for the screen and for Craig Mazin and that, because he's brought to life the exact same feel with it. Moments of like like stark realism. People who are fighting against an apocalypse of their own making, with these moments of really intense dark beauty in that, like the burning house that we saw, them drive past, or the buildings covered in the fungal
Like the
matter and
walls.
that.
The production
vice-
design, right? Man.
Yeah, it's haunting in ways that you may not even be consciously aware of, and that, and people really need to give it a chance.
Yeah.
You know?
Like
This
when
is,
no one went outside at the
Yeah.
beginning of the pandemic and people were like, nature is healing. And they were posting pictures from The Last of Us of just like stuff growing over cars. And I was like,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up.
yeah. I don't know what else to say other than that. Like this show feels like what Game of Thrones felt like for fantasy fans. I feel like we're at that level of dedication and love for a property, but not like the last seasons of Game of Thrones.
The good stuff we
the
saw.
good stuff, yeah, the first stuff. The stuff that Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley made, and we have to give props to Bruce. I know there's been a lot of stuff on the news about him not getting any props for creating the first game, and really he should be getting the recognition.
I think it's just the case of like, he's just not in the credits of the show because he didn't help with the show.
Or they didn't.
Yeah, I do
They
agree
didn't-
that like everybody knows Neil's name versus his, and it should be
Yeah,
like
and he helped create the universe, so really he should.
yeah.
They should have reached out to him too, or maybe they did and he didn't want to. We don't know how the behind the scenes things work. I'm just like, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. This is the show. This is the show for me. This is my favorite show right now. This might be my favorite show forever, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Last of Us is my favorite game. 1 and 2, because that is one uninterrupted story, and I can't be like, I like the first one more than the second one. They both are part of the same
know.
thing. And there's nothing really like that in the video game sphere. Maybe Mass Effect, but not even that. You can play 2 and 3 without 1, or 3 and without the other 2. Anyway, there's a symbiosis between those two games, and those, man, I can't wait till you guys who haven't played the game watch the second season, because it's a whole new level of hurt that you never knew you could get to.
It is. But also a whole new level of love that you didn't even know.
That's true.
And that's the
Agreed.
crazy part about it. You'll go through so much grief and pain and anger and love that it's like you're going through it with the characters. You just are.
Mad props to everyone associated with Tlu or The Last of Us. I don't know why I said Tlu. Out of this whole
all
season.
the dogs in the cage at Naughty
Yeah.
Dog, everybody that worked on the game,
Yep.
worked on the second game, worked on the remakes.
The
Shannon fucking Woodward,
Yep.
by
Yep.
the way.
Yeah, who
was the
got
only
this
reason this
who got this working?
directing pairing happened.
I know Pedro Pascal.
Brilliant.
People were like, "Oh, haven't we seen enough of him in
No.
Mandalorian and
No.
all that stuff?" Like, no.
He has spent
He can
so
keep being in every show forever, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Him,
It's not
Narcos,
the Chris
this.
Pratt, okay?
No.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt, I don't need to see in anything
Yeah.
else anymore.
I like that
He-
him and Bella Ramsey have such a good rapport, just even afterwards. Like, they feel like they're really good friends, and I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man, I can't. I wish it was a Sunday again, because I want to watch
I
more.
know.
I want to watch more, but we'll see.
I'm
We'll
glad
see.
it's coming out weekly, so that way we don't just like, we're like, now we have to wait so long, but also it's hard weekly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So hard with the show.
yeah. But that's it for Geeks with Kids. Thank you, Britt. Thank you, Hawk, for coming on and talking about this amazing show and this amazing game. Oh man.
Yes.
We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we're gonna be talking about Vox Machina, because that's gonna be done by then
Another amazing show based on a game.
with
A role-playing game.
Ashley again. So
Ashley.
So
The Queen.
I'm looking forward to talking about that with you guys because it's been so good. If you haven't watched the show, go watch it right now.
Looks like leaving to go watch it right now.
Thank you guys out there. Thank you guys over here for listening to us, watching with us, and talking to me about this awesome stuff. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Good night. Have a good night. Bye.
Well, that's it for us this week on Geeks with Kids. If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.